Hi, everybody, and welcome to Herbalism Meets West with Andra and Autumn. We're going to be sharing our perspectives from the side of Eastern and Western herbalism with you. In the purpose of today's webinar, we are going to be discussing the uncertain times that we're in, and we want to be able to share invaluable information on ways to support your everyday health and immune system. Let us share who we are and give you insight into the perspective of what offerings we have as far as Eastern and Western herbal support approaches. Practices that you can easily put into place every day within your home. So welcome, Andra. I'm so excited for us to get started with this webinar.
I know. Hi, Autumn. In your little, I love all your herbs back there. I want to know what all those are. Okay. Hi.
Hi. Thank you. And I love the sunshine coming in. So we definitely have the inner and outer kind of plant world going on here. I want to start with allowing you to be able to have some space to let us know who you are, your background, education, a little bit about your practice, and really why you do what you do from an Eastern herbal support perspective.
So my name is Andra Millian. I'm a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine. That means a lot of things. That's acupuncture is what most people know about that. And with that, I have a practice that I've been doing for about 20 years. I studied in Los Angeles, California at Yosan University. All this stuff is on my website. I am licensed through the state to practice, and part of what traditional Chinese medicine is, it's practiced all over the place, including here a lot. And the reason they call it traditional Chinese is because it originated 2,000 years ago in China. Obviously, I'm not Chinese. And it's just a really complete form of therapeutics and things that have lasted and been tested over time and can really help people live a much more balanced and healthy life. It includes acupuncture, includes physiological things like cupping. I know people have, seen those funny marks on some athletes. Body work, different types of massage, acupressure, exercise like Tai Chi and Qigong is also included in it. There's a whole nutritional component that we're going to talk about today. A way of eating for the seasons, eating for your ailments. That's really an elegant way to look at things. That's a little bit more in depth, I think, than just, eat your greens and, what the Western perspective may be. And then there's a whole herbalism section that you and I have in common. And we use our herbalism in a little bit different way to put things together. And so that's kind of what we're going to compare today. And that's really what's kind of on deck with everything that's going on with people's health these days, I think. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Andra. So just a little bit about myself. So I have a bachelor's in biomedical science from Texas A&M University. And I spent 13 years within the pharmaceutical drug trial kind of research realm until my dad's cancer had me pivot and do a 180. And I got certified as a health coach from the American Council on Exercise, did herbal studies at the Austin School of, what was that? It was with Ellen Zimmerman, now I'm forgetting because she has retired now, but the Austin School of, I think it was Austin School of Herbal Studies, and then also the Herbal Medics Academy where I got my apothecarist degree. And I also specialize in juice transformations as well as the supportive nutrition factor. In my business, Autumn's Harvest, L.Ac, I have 3 areas of focus. I have an apothecary line. I do private VIP health coaching with 3 to 6 month programs. And then I also teach and speak to share food as medicine and the journey that has supported me and loved ones through health and wellness. And I do practice a Western perspective, a little bit different than Andra, but we definitely have some amazing herbs in common, like ashwagandha. So I'm sure that we'll be talking about some of those today as we dig a little bit deeper. Andra, I think we wanted to be able to start out with just taking a moment and talking about really building a strong house, a strong foundation within your body to be able to keep the invaders out. So I was wondering if you could give a little bit of perspective from your side on kind of how that all relates and how the gut, the nervous system, and even the immune system play together?
Really what's on deck right now is lung health. I know a lot of people are going to want to watch this because of all of the COVID stuff going on. I want to say first between us that this virus, which is a, Western scientific diagnosed virus, there is no immunity to it. There is no acquired immunity to it that we know of even yet. That hasn't even come up yet. Hopefully we will discover that there is some kind of herd immunity and acquired immunity. And it's really basically, I tell people it's like, we are the New World people, and the first, conquerors came over here with all of their diseases, and we have nothing to help us with that. So, the Western community is busy, the allopathic medical community and scientific community are really busy trying to find a vaccine for this and trying to find out how it mutates and trying to find out, all of the things that they need to do to keep people alive in the really dire parts of this. And in Chinese medicine, we say a couple things. We say, don't wait until you're dying of thirst to start digging a well. And I'm thinking of the Game of Thrones thing when the Game of Thrones freak, and so when the White Walkers are coming, and one of the, I think it was Tyrion Lannister or something, was saying, well, what do we do? What do we do? And somebody said, well, just don't die, and we'll see you.
Yeah,
so we have to figure out a way right now, because it's spring and because we have a lot of challenges to our respiratory system with allergies and all kinds of things. We're at the tail end of the flu season. And then we also have this sort of pandemic that's hitting different parts of the world in pretty strong ways. So I wanted to talk about the things that, we know what the CDC is saying. We want to do all of those things. We want to self-isolate like you and I are doing right now. We want to wear our masks. We want to wash our hands all the time. But that's pretty much what they have for us, and so there are some things that we can do between you and I to sort of strengthen our systems. And there's two aspects to that. There is, building a windscreen to keep out the invaders. That's what the Chinese medicine would call that kind of, hyping up your immune system. But also, if you're already having symptoms of some kind, any kind, and a pre-existing condition, you don't want to lock the thief in the house, which is also something I wanted to talk about. So you don't want to over-tonify the system with too many, immune boosters and things like that, so that you don't lock in what you may already have. So that's what I wanted to talk about with you today.
Excellent, thank you. And I think, it's very important as you talk about, really keep trying to build up your fortitude and your health constitution as much as possible as a barrier for yourself. To keep in mind, and I know that we've worked on this together as far as really gut health and making sure that you're taking care of your GI system as well as possible. And if there's anything that you need to do in order to move that into a more balanced kind of foundation for you, because the GI affects, it's sometimes up to 80-90% of your serotonin uptake. It affects your nervous system and how you feel and the way that you kind of perceive the world. And even with your, the digestive tract also affects your immune system and how strong your immunity is.
Yeah, I mean, your immune system is about 70% gut health. And so, so keeping your gut in good shape is, of course, really important. And a lot of people right now are turning to comfort foods, which aren't the best thing for our gut, things in boxes and lots of sugar and things that we know cause a lot of inflammation and that kind of thing. So that's really important. I wanted to talk to a little bit in that vein about eating for your ailments, because really the first in Chinese medicine, the first opening to the outside world of our body is our skin, which is considered part of the lung and respiratory system. We sweat from our skin, and our nasal passages, our mouth, our nose, our alimentary tract, and nasal passages. So we really want to get those things really strong, our lungs really strong. And overall immunity in our gut, of course, is really important. So I'll let you talk about the gut more, because I know that that's really on deck with you. And I'll talk about a little bit more about the lungs, I think, today. And so we can go with that. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds fabulous. And it's really a good segue into kind of the next bucket that we wanted to talk about, which I really wanted you to dive in with your expertise and how much you've been following what's going on in Asia and how it's been progressing, of actually supporting the stages of COVID-19 and just being aware of them as well.
I mean, there's a thing on my website, aoatcm.com, which is going, I know you're going to put it on there. I have a little COVID page. There's a wonderful herbalist named John Chen who teaches a lot of us all the time. He's also a Western pharmacologist. He also has one of the best Chinese herbal medicine lines made in the United States. And he really goes through step by step what they did in the two hospitals in Wuhan, and how Chinese medicine was used in concurrence with, the Western modalities that they had available, and how that kind of worked together. Also helping the healthcare providers. They had the healthcare providers take certain herbal formulas. So that's all on the website, and I think he can talk about it at length a lot better than I can. In Chinese medicine, we don't treat COVID. That's a Western medical diagnosis. In Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine and Asian medicine, a huge part of what we learn is a thing called the 4 levels and 6 stages of febrile disease. And it really tracks very similarly to how all these very strange and mutable symptoms that people are discovering around what is COVID, it tracks them. Do you have more fever than chills? Do you have a cough or not? Is it productive or not? And all of these weird symptoms that people are having a hard time targeting. Western medicine wants to target one thing. Let's do the vaccine. Let's find the root of this. And in the meantime, this disease follows these different stages. So the first stage would be, maybe asymptomatic, and when you're really super contagious. What do you do to protect yourself, other people from you possibly? And then it goes into when you're having just mild symptoms, respiratory symptoms, and then it goes deeper and deeper in these 4 levels where the disease goes deeper into the lungs. It can produce eventually pneumonia. You can get a huge inflammatory response called a cytokine storm. And by then, hopefully you're in a hospital on a respirator or oxygen, or, you're in the Western emergency hands. What we can do at home is treat our lungs. And I want you to let's talk about the lungs because it's first, and then we'll talk about the gut. Does that sound good?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to just take a second and just describe a little further kind of the difference between the Eastern and the Western herbal approach bove we dive into?
So Eastern, I'll talk about the Eastern approach. The Eastern approach is that herbs are usually paired up, and they're in recipes of up to about 20 herbs per formula. In the old days and in China and in places where tea is, ubiquitous and people are big tea drinkers, they'll still do decoctions, which means boilings of these teas and raw herbs and prepared herbs. and give it to people in a liquid form. In the United States, we're pill takers, and that's the way it is. And so we do more pills, powders, capsules, and non-liquid forms of things. And there are prepared in good manufacturing practices labs, and we do it like that. There are specific herbs that have been studied that are not the ancient ones in the many formulas that are available to us, that have been studied to have antiviral properties, antibacterial properties. A lot of these herbs, like isatis root and leaf, dacheng and banlangan, are used a lot now. And it doesn't distinguish, these herbs don't distinguish between a virus and a bacterium. They are thought in Chinese medicine to treat toxin. And so, airborne toxin. And so they'll treat symptoms like fever, like mucus production, like bad coughs, like things that you catch, be it a flu, be it, COVID or SARS. They use these herbs in that. So we have different herbs. We have a master herb that does the one thing we want. Then we have herbs that go to a particular area, be it your head, your nose, your gut, your bowels, whatever. And then we have different herbs that help mitigate any toxic symptoms that you could get from those herbs, to make them less harsh, and to strengthen the overall formula. What about you?
Yeah, so with Western herbalism, the herbal formulas are absolutely more fluid. You can combine different herbs to be able to deal with multiple kind of issues that the client may be experiencing at the same time. So, for example, if you had somebody that had some digestion issues, you could put peppermint in there, or maybe even some ginger, and then also be able to kind of calm their anxiety a little bit, even with the same herb, such as chamomile, which is good for the digestive tract and even calming as a nervine. So in the Western, in the Western perspective, we really think about it as there's overall classifications of herbs, like nervines help treat the nervous system, adaptogens help you kind of adapt to the stressors of daily life, help those deep organs, help you with transition in clearing things in that way. And so it's definitely a little bit more fluid. For example, like, just a transition into the lungs, for example, I use mullein, which is a leaf that can act as an expectorant. So you can make a sinus steam and be able to do that and help treat certain things that, I don't want to say treat, that you can help support bringing your body back into homeostasis with some of these herbs in a nice and gentle way. And so I'm very much a proponent of using the Western herbs as well as the Eastern. Andra, you are my wonderful acupuncturist, as well as do wonderful gua sha and give me lovely herbal remedies to get me over the deeper things that I cannot help fix myself. So I think it's really great to have both perspectives and have a multitude of things within your health arsenal.
I think the real difference here is just that with the fluidity, and I guess you mean that you're choosing what herbs to put together, and you're sort of, doing your own, your own formulations of these things. In Chinese medicine, there are, because this thing started so long ago, and they don't throw away their written anything. Yeah. There's reams and reams and reams of already kind of formulated, pharmacopoeia of things, which, over the eons have been studied for all of these things as well. So, I mean, it's not that we don't study the Western scientific proponents of these herbs. It's just that it's sort of the recipe books are there already. And so you can, again, take a couple of different formulas and take things out and put things in, like you do with Western herbs. But the herbs themselves, a lot of times, are different. They're herbs that were grown over there and are still grown over there. And, the Western herbs come from, the Germanic and, the European herbal pharmacopoeia, which is incredibly strong too. And they also talk more about this one herb does this and this one herb does that. In Chinese medicine, it's always the combinations. of the herbs that do. You have one that does it stronger, then you want to support it with all these other things and, get the formula, more balanced to what you're trying to target. So they're very targeted that way. So, so as far as the nutrition, I like Western nutrition as well. Eat a lot of antioxidants, eat all of your colors, eat healthy food, eat organic whenever you can. Right now people are pretty challenged because a lot of people are sheltering at home with even getting the groceries that they need. And so they do say, if you can go to the environmental working group for the clean, dirty dozen, clean 15 things that you really should have, organic things that you don't really need to. You can clean things in salt water, when you get them, your vegetables and things like that. But the Chinese talk about Asians eat specifically for their ailments, and so there's really specific foods that they don't do as much in Western that I think is great. That is like what foods are great for your lungs, what foods are great for the heart, what foods are great for other organs in the body, your gut, what flavors. So the way that they teach it is each organ has its own taste, its own color. This is so we can learn it. Its own flavor, its own season. And so we can remember it easily that way. And they say that with the lung, and I'll talk about the lung and then you can get into the gut. Okay? Yeah. Is that the color of the lung is white. The flavor of the lung is pungent and spicy. And so that's pretty easy to remember. So if you're trying to eat for your lung health, you want to eat, and this is an interesting time of year because we're transitioning, from winter to spring. Usually for the lungs, it's, flu season. So we're in winter, we're eating a lot of roots. But the white root vegetables, and we've talked about this before, white roots, remember white roots. So anything that has a little bit of a spicy flavor that's not too hot, what you're trying to do is sort of ventilate the lungs and sweat a little bit. So if you've got a little congestion in your lungs, if you've got, something going on in your nose, you want those things to dilate and to produce a little bit of a sweat if you've got a little bit of a fever. So things like ginger, garlic, things that you cut open and are white on the inside, turnips, onions, rutabagas, jicama, things like that all, if you think about it, they all kind of have that little bit of a spicy flavor, but they're not hot and they're all white on the inside. Scallion, which opens the nose. All of those things are really great for just keeping the lungs healthy. And things like pears, Asian pears, to help phlegm expectoration, I think are really, really good right now. And because we're in spring, so in spring, we do more sprouted things, sprouted grains and sprouts that are, little shoots coming up. So, think about eating more things like that. If what we don't want to eat at a time when our lungs are challenged, we don't want to lock anything in. So we don't want anything that's too astringent. We don't want to do anything that is too vinegary, that's too sour in flavor, kind of makes you do that, like lemons. We don't want to astringe. We want to perspire it out and create a little bit of an opening and a perspiration. So that's a really good, easy thing to do at home.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you can get with somebody that can talk to you about real specific nutrients. For example, right now people are complaining a lot of a dry, non-productive cough. And, who would think that, well, I don't have any cough medicine. I don't have anything that's helping me. I'm coughing up a lung. We're trying to buy a little time with people and trying, just because there's this whole COVID thing hanging over our heads, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be treating all of our lung health. Get your lungs in as good a shape as you can get them. If you've got allergies, deal with it. If you've got a cold, deal with it. Get rid of it as soon as you can. So if you've got a cough and it's non-productive, one of the things that Chinese medicine says is strawberries cooked with white sugar. Usually it's, you know, we don't want sugar, but sugar is actually moistening and it clears heat. So if you've got any strawberry jam in the house and you don't have any cough syrup and you don't have anything that can help, you know, create more productive cough, you know, get you some strawberry jam. Most people have that in the cupboard and don't know, oh gosh, this is something I can turn to. That's a food that might help me, you know, a little bit with this issue, and buy me some time until I can get to a doctor.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about that little fire cider you have and your
Yes. Yes, I do have a little bit of fire cider here. So this is a apple cider vinegar infused kind of immune supportive recipe that the Western herbalists have been using for decades, pretty well known, but it's been used for centuries because vinegar is a wonderful preservative and it's often added with honey also as a preservative, but honey, especially local honey, can very much help keep the lungs supported. It's antibacterial, antiviral, and if it's local, it'll help you with local allergies too. So just a little extra tidbit there.
And if you're a mummy, you can be embalmed in it. Did you know that they used to embalm mummies with it in
oh my gosh,
in ancient Egypt, and it would keep the mummies from, you know, like an embalming thing. Yeah, it's like incredible. Honey is like magic.
Yeah, I know they found it in tombs, like in little, you know, pottery.
Yeah.
And things like that. A great preservative. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, for the body too, apparently. So, so I have on my website, if you go to the homepage, www.autumnschulze.com, I have to where you can not only sign up for my newsletter, but in doing so, you'll actually get a video that I've put together, as well as a PDF recipe for fire cider. And this has a lot of the things that Andra was talking about. It traditionally, the main things that you want to put in there are onions, garlic, horseradish is another wonderful one. I couldn't find it this season fresh. That was a real good quality, so I left it out. However, there's ginger in there, cayenne as well, because hot chilies disperse, right, Andra?
They do. If they're mixed with these other things, what you want to be careful about doing too hot chilies right now is that they can be a little too dispersing. You have to really balance them with some other things, especially if you're older or already not doing so well. You don't want to overdo it, the hot. A little bit is good because it'll get you sweating. Too much, not so much. So I would stay more to the, you know, the ginger and the onions and the things like that, and just a little bit of the cayenne probably right now. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely to personal taste, right? Because in herbal medicine, compliance is everything. So if you can't do your dose because it's too spicy, then
Some people like where we live love all that hot, right? So
yeah.
we want to save the hot for later on in the summer, when we really need to sweat more. But right now, you know, yeah.
And for those of you that don't know, Andra and I live outside of Austin, Texas.
We do.
And then Andra, I wanted to also piggyback back to you because you have a couple of free recipes that really go along with some of the white foods that you were talking about for the lungs on your website, right?
Yeah. So a couple of things I have on my website, and I'll continue to put other things, but I have a slaw that I like to eat, and I don't put any kind of dressing on it. It's a white root slaw, and it has a lot of these white spicy herbs that I've talked about. You know, you just chop it up and eat it like a coleslaw. There's also a dressing on there if you want dressing. And, you know, when people are really recuperating from something. So the best time that we can catch people, especially with what's going on now, are in very early stages, either prevention, hopefully, or early stages of symptoms, and then, you know, after they've gotten through the hardest time and possibly come out of a hospital situation in order to kind of help the body, you know, come back to itself and restore itself. And so I have a recipe also for, because if you've gone through a big lung issue, you know, whether it's a flu or, you know, an adenovirus or some kind of a virus, your lungs have been compromised some, so you want to nourish them and bring them back. So, you know, chicken soup, anything that's really easy to assimilate, you know, porridges, soups, really easy easily digested food so that the body can concentrate on getting itself well rather than figuring out what all of this stuff you're putting into your gut is. So pretty simple. So I put a chicken soup in there because you have a lot of the collagen and the things that really moisturize your gut and, help really good enzymes for your gut, as well as these root vegetables and some other herbs that might be easy for you to get, like sage, poultry seasoning. Sage is really, really good for sore throat, right? And swollen, lymph glands and things like that. So a lot of the things, parsley, sage, rosemary, thyme.
Yeah, thyme is good for cough. Yeah, and you could do a sage thyme tea.
Yeah, and so in the soup, there's all of that also. And so again, we're working with the gut, we're working with the lung system, and that's on my website, aoatcm.com. That Autumn will put in at the end. So so let's talk about the gut a little bit.
Absolutely. So when I think about the gut, I may think about it a little differently than most, because I really think about our wonderful gut bacteria and how we want to love them so that they love us back, right? And you had mentioned the importance of eating the rainbow, trying to get as close to source, whole foods if you can, a lot of fiber, a lot of colorful plants that are in right now. And really in doing that, you're going to be supporting what the bacteria in your gut, which is called the microbiome. And that microbiome affects a lot of different things. It's also, the microbiome can be hurt by the standard American diet. So SAD foods is what that acronym is. And so that's going to be a lot of things that are processed, have added chemicals, have been altered by man. A lot of those are going to affect the GI tract itself, and affect those gut bacteria. And Andra had mentioned the importance of organic. One of the perspectives with organic is that you're, as much as you can, that's going to be avoiding genetically modified organisms. And when they make those GMO foods, they really want them to be protective and stand up against Roundup, because they want to be able to spray that to kill the bugs, but not kill the plant. So there's that residual pesticide, glyphosate, that is still on the food. And that can actually cause what's called leaky gut syndrome, where the cells within your gut are supposed to be impermeable or not penetrable. And with the standard American diet and some of these GMO foods, it actually causes those cells to have some space in between. So
there's little things called the villi. The villi, they're the little hairs in your gut. And if your body gets too acidic from a lot of these things, a lot of the really processed sugars, and the things that eventually, sugar and anything that turns, that's all the functional medicine stuff. That sugar and anything that turns into sugar is really acidic for your gut, and kind of makes little nubs out of these things that should be pushing the food through and to have a complete digestion. So you're a lot of then the food that's not getting properly digested sticks in between the little villi and rots there and creates unfavorable bacteria, or even an overgrowth of good bacteria, but you have too much of it. So so that's the balance there. And if you've got little critters, a lot of times people that have those sugar cravings, it's really just those little bacteria going, feed me, feed me. And once you get that in control, the gut works a lot better, and surprise, surprise, you don't have those sugar cravings anymore.
Yeah, it's really amazing. The candida infestation that I believe you're talking about.
That's just one. Candida is just one. It's the naturally occurring, we all have it. That's one of the ones that kind of goes haywire with all of this. So yeah, and you can have an overgrowth of that, sometimes beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where that leaky gut comes into play, because it can lead to the dysbiosis of those gut bacteria, or the imbalance of them. And then it can also lead to food sensitivities, not necessarily on the level of food allergies, but actual sensitivities where people may be eating certain things and not noticing that it's causing GI distress, that it's causing these different symptoms within their body, because they're just thinking, oh, this is aging, oh, this is just stress, but it could be food.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, so different things kind of as a perspective from the gut. I mean, everything that we've talked about, trying to eat as close to the source as you can, getting things from farmers markets, or they have community supported agriculture. Because if you have it closer, as close to the source as you can get it, then it's going to have more nutrients in there. And so you can, in this day and age, it is difficult to get out to the farmers markets. Some places do have community supported agriculture, where you can actually get those boxes delivered to your home. But the other alternative is to not dismiss frozen foods, because when you think about fruits that were frozen and taken right off the vine that day, they're just holding so much of that nutrition, and even frozen vegetables as well. So that's another thing to keep in mind, is that it doesn't always necessarily have to be fresh to contain a lot of nutrient content, because sometimes that fresh food has taken weeks to even get to your hand as well.
So a lot of times they'll pick things, before they're completely ripe. And if they're frozen, they're more likely to just, again, retain the, and I mean, that gets us into, if you can do it, and I wanted to get into sunlight and all of that kind of stuff, but, if you're able to grow, a plant, if you're able to grow anything. I know a lot of people are in, very tight urban environments, and it's really hard to grow anything. But if you can grow, some herbs on your windowsill, if you can, if you have a yard and you can put in a few fresh, herbs or tomatoes or whatever, and have them fresh out of the garden, that's a miracle. And then if you're going to get things from the grocery store, like they always say, don't shop the center, have them walk around to the produce section. We're getting a lot of things delivered now because we're, older and more at risk and whatnot. And, the people that deliver our, they'll call them, they'd say, oh, there's plenty of stuff in the produce section. There's no problem at all here. So people are shopping a lot more out of boxes and all these instant things and the comfort food and the, crackers and whatnot. But, the more fresh food that you can get into your system, or fresh frozen, is better. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Because we all want to avoid the quarantine 15, right? Absolutely. And Andra, I had a note here that you had a website that you wanted to share with everybody called letusgrow.com.
Yeah, it's a little website that I discovered that I think is really sweet. I think it's actress Zooey Deschanel, who was in Elf, she and I think her husband or ex-husband or something started it. It's a way that maybe people that are, stuck in an apartment or it's somewhere where they're not able to get fresh food easily or not in touch with nature easily, which is so important right now, is just to have a little bit of green in your home. It's a hydroponic kit that people get. And you can get a little tower and put it in your kitchen, and they send it to you in a box. And it ain't cheap, but they do have one for just 12 plants, so you can grow lettuce in your house. And they also have the grow light that comes with it and everything. So there's a lot more options, I think, coming out now where people can actually be more in touch with nature in that way. So, that kind of, I wanted to talk a little bit about, and this might be a different conversation, but about other things that we can do, that people have always done. I mean, back in the old days, fresh air, sunshine, good food, clean water. I mean, you really need that right now. And what they're discovering, and I believe that they need to do a lot more research on this, and I'm waiting for it, is sunshine. So there are people, in very tight quarters that are stuck in apartments. We're being told, stay home, don't go out, don't leave your apartment. If you're in a city of 8 million people or whatnot, it's going to be even harder. If you live in a high-rise building, it's going to be even harder for you to get any kind of sunshine at all. Well, that's where our vitamin D3 comes from. That has a huge impact on our respiratory immunity. and our natural, respiratory health. And so I would say if you're living anywhere where you can get some sun on your body, get out there and get about, 15 minutes of sun on your arms. You can wear a hat, but, don't slather up with, again, counterintuitive with, unless you have skin cancer or something. Get out there in the sun. Don't slather up with an SPF for about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Now, what they've been discovering is that with the COVID, darker skinned people are getting, African Americans are really getting it a lot worse. And there are several things that are being discussed about why, the medical system and high blood pressure and things like that. But what I would love to hear more about and more scientific research being done on is the fact that D3 takes a lot longer from the sun, the UVB rays that come from the sun that help activate our D3, that help, protect our respiratory system. It's a lot harder for darker skin, to absorb it. They have to stay out in the sun a lot longer, maybe 3 times as long. In order to get as much as a very light skinned person would. And so, and also older people, they don't absorb, they shed a lot more, they don't absorb vitamin D into their skin as well. And so those are 2 groups that are very, very highly impacted by this disease, and just people being stuck inside. So I would say, talk to your doctor, talk to your online, whoever it is, online docs that they have now, or your family physician, and talk to them and see if a vitamin D3 supplement wouldn't be a good idea for you. Right. I think that's just so important, and it's really kind of outside of our purview, but functionally, I think it's really an important thing to look at.
Yeah, and how do you feel about a pill versus sublingual? Because I've heard that sublingual vitamin D can be absorbed a little bit better, and especially if it has K2 with it to help absorption. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, there are more absorbable kinds. There's, liquid kinds. I would just get, and I think you can even get it prescribed, if I'm not mistaken, by a physician in doses that are high enough. So I can't speak to that. I would say get it any way you can get it, but it needs to be D3 and not another type.
Yeah.
And then if you can get it from the sun, groovy, but especially for people that are older, for people that are stuck inside all the time, without a lot of direct sunlight, even if you can get in a window that doesn't, something to screen out the UV rays for a while, get in there and take a sun bath 20 minutes a day. Darker skinned people, really, I would really look into supplementing that. I saw something, there was a ENT doctor that talked about there's one protein in the sinuses that is activated as an immunoprotectant for the respiratory system, and it's activated by D3. So if you don't have that, and that's something that you really can't, vegans also, vegans need to get out and get some sun, because D3 is only produced by animal products. So it's really important for somebody that doesn't eat animal products to get that sun on their body a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a very good point, Andra, because I am vegetarian, and so I have supplemented D3. It has been prescribed to me in the past at larger doses, but I use just in case anybody's looking for something that could be an option, I use the My Kind Organics, and they have a D3 spray, and they also have a B12 spray, because again, as vegan or even anyone in the general population now, that B12 was coming from the bacteria in the soil, and our soil is not what it used to be. So
and
bees.
Right, the bees, especially for people that are really stressed out, right?
Yeah.
So, foods that are high in B vitamins, supplementing bees, a lot of these vitamins you have to consume to keep in your body. So, you know, especially these times where we're so, you know, people are nervous and people are worried and stressed out, you know, the additional, maybe additional B vitamins, A, C, you know, foods rich in vitamin C, you know, can help with all of that. Also helps the skin, the lungs, you know, A, C, E, D, and the B vitamins. Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be next because I know they've also been finding vitamin C has been helpful. And then what about zinc?
Yeah, zinc, you know, is a mineral and can really help, you know, with, you know, it's often prescribed with colds, for colds and flu and things like that. So a lot of the things, you know, just Google it, you know, and that's where the colors, you know, you really, a lot of antioxidants in very colorful foods. So a lot of veggies that are all different colors, you know, can help you get those vitamins that you need to help, you know, really support your system during this time. And that's also, again, you know, try and ease off of the boxed instant things, you know, the fast food, the things like that. And, you know, now it could be a really good time to just learn how, you know, wonderful eating, you know, people are eating a lot because they're at home eating. So, you know, try, you know, fresh fruits, vegetables, frozen things that are fresh frozen, you know, meats and things like that. If you eat meat that are, you know, farm raised and grass fed and all of that, can really help you just buck up and be a little bit healthier. So you want, you know, if you're already not feeling well, that's kind of a hard thing, is to sit and cook for yourself. So, you know, again, there's some really easy, you know, recipes that can kind of help, you know, stretch things out for you. Any other herbs you want to talk about? Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, I kind of wanted to, you know, I mean, there's a couple of herbs that, you know, we think about, like echinacea and elderberry kind of being immune supportive, or immune, there can be immune stimulants and immune tonics when it comes to herbs. So really kind of keeping in mind, if somebody has an autoimmune disease or anything like that, you don't want anything too stimulating. And if you're in a deep disease state, you don't want anything too stimulating or something that's going to hold it in.
That's right. So that's about the thief. You don't want to lock the thief in the house. So people are always, I get a lot of calls. I'm doing, I shut my acupuncture practice pretty early because I do treat a lot of people with pre-existing conditions, a lot of older people as well. And so I kind of saw what was coming and I shut her down. So I'm doing phone consultations and, you know, nutritional and herbal phone consultations. And people a lot of times will ask me, well, how do I boost my immune system? How do I boost my immune system? So you really have to make sure, especially if you've had cancer or any type of pre-existing condition, that you don't overstimulate your immune system, because what you don't want to get into if you do get sick is these hyper, you know, for your immune system to sort of catch fire with inflammation and overdo it and maybe throw you into, you know, a cytokine storm or whatever. So things like astragalus, things like reishi mushrooms, all the, you know, mushrooms that people hear about, things like echinacea. You want to be really careful and really talk to an herbalist and see if those things are, or a licensed practitioner of some kind, to see if those things are beneficial for you particularly. And you know, I can't stress that enough. You don't want to lock the thief in the house, but you do want, you know, to just eat well and, you know, eat to strengthen your organ system, and maybe do a little bit, if you're really sure you don't have any kind of, you know, virus or bacterium that's active in your system, you know, you can do a little bit of those kind of wind screening type of herbs that are adaptogenic and that are meant to tonify and strengthen the system, because a lot of times they'll strengthen your system, but they also strengthen whatever you want to be fighting. They just lock it all in. And that's why you don't want to do it too much.
Definitely. And I know before we close, I just wanted to touch kind of on stress and, a lot of the changes that are going on. I mean, being in lockdown, it causes certain trauma for all of us. There are different parts of the brain trying to adjust to what's going on. And so, self-care tips, kind of, I wanted to share a couple of mine, and if you wanted to share a couple of yours as well, because I know you have a beautiful property to connect with nature as well. So I know for me, I'm definitely doing different baths, and I put herbal tea in there, different nervines to calm, like the chamomile sitting right behind me.
How do you do that? How do you do a chamomile bath?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I would do is I would make a tea infusion with it. So I would take a couple of spoonfuls of the chamomile, or you can even use tea bags, and then you would infuse that in hot water. I almost get it right to the boiling point, and then I take it off on my kettle, and then I'll pour it into a mason jar with the herbs, and I let them sit and float around for about 15 minutes, and then I'll use a tea strainer. If all you have is a noodle strainer, use that, get it out, because if there's a few things floating around in the bath, it's not so bad. But then I pour that tea into my bath, and I'll pour Epsom salt, which is calming, helps support the muscles, helps me sleep. And then I also put baking soda in there, because baking soda is a gentle detoxifier in and of itself. And it actually helps kind of counteract a little bit of that chlorine in the water, keeping the absorption rate a little lower. So that's kind of how I do my herbal baths. I mean, I'll put all other nervines in there, like lemon balm or lavender, passion flower, skullcap, even catnip. So if your children, if you need to help them ease off into calm, you can do a catnip chamomile bath for children, and even a chamomile very diluted bath for babies, helps with colic and indigestion and things like that. So
people that are at home, like my little sister with their 4-year-old and their 9-month-old. Hello.
Here, let me get a little chamomile tea, rub it on your gums, and it's better than scotch, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And journaling, meditation, trying new hobbies, connecting with nature, a lot of gardening, the little things that I'm transplanting and things like that. Feeling the breeze, watching the sunset. So Andra, what are you doing to kind of help your stress levels?
Well, I mean, you and I are lucky in that we have room. And I'm really thinking a lot about people that don't have that luxury. It's really a luxury.
Yeah.
To have space, any space. People that are really in their apartments, and people that are really in, have to really stay in because they're in such high populated areas. So the baths are a really wonderful thing. Again, if you can get in a window or get some sun on your body, that would be ideal. If you can do, there's so much stuff on the internet, meditations and things like that. Get your mind off of things. Move your body though, because find some way to, move your body, jump up and down, do some Tai Chi, do an online yoga class to relax your body. If you have, pain and you're used to doing things like, massages and acupuncture and things that aren't available to you right now, there are things that you can do at home. I'm going to do a acupressure little class that we're going to post. I'm going to do a gua sha class, little 15-minute, how you do that. So things to, gua sha is a little scraping technique that helps relax the muscles that you can do very easily at home. And so there will be some things posted on our websites about more, things to help physically with that. There's some herbal formulas and herbal teas, of course, the very calming things that you can get, lavender, essential oils. If you have some natural candles, I've been just having the best time with just, if it's not just a heavily perfumed fake kind of a candle, but there's some really lovely candles that you can get online that have all natural essential oils in them. If you have a diffuser, make your house smell really lovely. If not, you can even boil up some, orange rinds and lemons and things like that, and just boil it up in a tea and let it infuse your room. get in touch with something green. Try, if you have children, cut the tops of your potatoes and with the little eye things growing out of them, and see if you can grow that down into a jar of water. Do it with a carrot. Do it with an onion, with the little roots in it. Just put it up in a window. Play with that. See if you can get some kind of nature fix, some kind of something that's going to get you in touch with nature in some way, because I really find that there's nothing more relaxing than that, and that kind of takes you, your mind into a different space. It is spring. We want to try and enjoy it any way that we possibly, can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Andra. It's been a pleasure to do this with you today. Our first webinar, Getting in Touch with the Herbs, East and West. I do want to take a moment before we close just to let folks know how they can get in contact with us, what our websites are, what offerings you have right now as well to help people.
So I'm doing half an hour phone consultations for Chinese herbal recommendations and nutritional recommendations. All of the information and pricing is on my website, and it's all there. So at aoatcm.com, text me, email me, give me a call. And we can set something up. There's a contacts page where you can just send me your request, and then we set you up, and it has on the website everything that you received before and after, so everything's written out for you and presented to you that way. And then an ongoing recommendations page that, again, we're going to be posting things on our website. Different interviews that we're doing, and different things that you can do at home. And I know you have, lessons and things and coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a VIP coaching program that's 3 to 6 months. And for folks that are interested, I do kind of a phone initial consultation there. It's really a learning platform to be able to understand a lot more of what we've talked about today, about gut health, about how different aspects of the food kind of play in. And then I would also suggest, if you're looking at especially light things just to be able to help with stress and help calming, check out the shop on my site. You can get there 2 ways. There's www.autumnschulze.com. That leads to www.autumnsharvest.tv. And it's .tv instead of .com because I do a lot of supportive videos to be able to share information. I love videography. It's like my creative way that I like to express myself. So I do have the free Firesider training, which is you can access from my homepage. And you can access my shop. All of my social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube are all on there, as well as my email address, my phone number. So a multitude of ways that you can get in touch with me if you just want to chat on the phone for a couple of minutes about a possible tea that could be able to just support a couple of things that you have going on. But again, that would be a very light kind of discussion and just suggestions of products, as if I was at a market with you and kind of seeing what would be able to help with that. I do consultations as well. I usually do them in a initial plus kind of a follow-up. You can buy that package where we sit together for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, dive into the kind of personal background, and then be able to have a follow-up session, see how you're doing with your personalized concoctions and what adjustments we need to make. So, and a lot more courses that we're both going to be coming out with different instructional videos and things like that. And I'm working on building my course platform since I can't go out and meet you guys and hug everybody physically right now. So we're going to be trying to connect with you as virtually as possible. But yeah, make sure to sign up on our websites for our newsletter if you want to have more content like this. And even feel free to send us an email if you want to let us know, or kind of contact within our website to let us know what maybe you'd like to see in another webinar that we can collaborate on for you in the future. But Andra, thank you so much. It's been such a blessing to be able to do this with you.
I can't wait to see you in person again. You look so lovely.
I
I
know.
miss you.
I know. I miss you too. I can't wait to come and play on your land again.
Okay. All right.
All right, everybody. Bye. Love and light.
Bye.